I would like to thank the Minister for bringing this bill before the House and welcome the introduction of a paternity leave entitlement. 40 years ago, Sweden became the first country in the world to introduce paid parental leave. But it is only now, in 2016, that fathers in Ireland will have access to any kind of paid paternity leave. The Nordic countries, when dealing with parental leave, operate under the assumption that under ones are best cared for at home. How a child is cared for during their first year after birth is of utmost importance for their development. Studies have found that the placement of infants outside the home in the first year after birth can have negative developmental impacts. We need to ensure that every parent has the freedom and the ability to do what is best for his or her child. In order for children to develop secure attachments to the main caregivers, it is essential that parents have the ability to take this time to care for their children during this crucial period without fear of financial burden. The fathers of this country are an integral part of that, and it is well past time that this House has sought to create security for them to be able to make that attachment with their children, and which in turn gives greater security and care to infants. So I welcome strongly here today the introduction of a paternity leave entitlement. However, I also believe that to ensure properly the best interests of the newborn children and parents of this country, we need to continue to expand statutory leave entitlements for both parents. We also need to move towards an approach oriented towards parental leave encompassing both parents, rather than a system which makes a strong distinction between paid maternity leave of 26 weeks and paid paternity leave of only 2 weeks, and with the only provision of parental leave being an unpaid one. Currently, while we have equality between both parents for access to unpaid parental leave, this entitlement has created its own inequalities in our society. Because, in the words of my colleague Eamon Ryan in this House more than 10 years ago, if parents are poor and cannot afford to take parental leave because of a loss of salary, the government is saying, sorry, this is not for you. And while there is an entitlement to paid maternity leave, this does not fully recognise the partnership of both parents in families where this is applicable. We need to create a system with both a paid entitlement, which everybody can avail of, which also recognises that every parent has their own unique role to play, mothers and fathers. The paternity leave entitlement created in this bill seeks to complement existing paid maternity leave benefits, and I welcome the elements of the bill that allows this provision to be passed to the other parent upon the tragic possibility of the death of one parent. However, while it is crucial that we do not reduce the importance of existing maternity leave benefits available to new mothers, comprehensive reform must be introduced which helps both parents to care for their child properly in the early formative years of their lives. Parenthood can be a partnership, and it is important that for families with two parents, we allow them the flexibility to work as a partnership. The introduction of paid parental leave for the first 6 months after birth, in addition to existing maternity leave, would be a much more appropriate system for the 21st century. With this legislation, this House is only getting the ball rolling on an issue which still requires comprehensive reform to fully realise how we view parenthood and how we seek to act in the best interests of our children. It is still only papering over the holes of our parental leave system. I welcome this bill, as 2 weeks is better than none. But I would call on the government to continue to phase in such entitlements which all parents will have access to, rich or poor, mothers or fathers.
Very much.